Taking a look here at Antietam from Worthington Games. I figured since I had just done my review of In Magnificent Style, which turned into a general appreciation for Worthington Games' recent titles, I would go ahead and just get this on the table as well, since it's a fairly simple system. This is part of Worthington's old school war games label, and this is indeed an old school war game type system, the good old fashioned hex and counter, fairly simple CRT, which I'm trying to get the glare. So the rules are simple movement, simple morale types, simple range. Anything except artillery can only shoot adjacent hexes. Here's your CRT on it. Simple terrain modifiers and typical types of terrain modifiers. Things like sunken roads or woods and things like that will provide various combat modifiers. Creeks, streams, etc. Present various difficulties in crossing. I just tested this out with the Burnside Bridge scenario, which the Union ended up winning with, it was mostly in casualty points. The Union only had 28 casualties, the Confederates had 69. 28 seems low, but it was not particularly close. I opted to one of the things you can do. All the Union forces start over here. Here's Burnside's bridge right here. The Confederates start with a unit in this space here, which, as you can see, has this little sort of ridge designation on it, which gives them a -3 to attack die rolls. The unit that started there, which I believe somewhere here was Toombs's Georgians. Maybe they got eliminated. I don't know. Anyway, the Confederates just start with a simple unit here, and then some more units, these red-striped D.R. Jones units back up here. The A.P. Hill units did not show up until, I want to say turn 9 or 10, and I believe it starts on turn 7. No, starts on turn 6 and ends at turn 14. So it's a fairly long scenario, but then A.P. Hill's units show up later. So initially the Confederates are pretty badly outnumbered, but the Union has no way of getting across except at the bridge, or if they want to march units off this arrow point here, they can then reappear after a designated period of time. And let's see, look at the system rules. If you look at this chart here for the Union off-map movement, you roll a 1 to 4 on the D10. They show up 2 turns later, 5, 6, 3 turns, 7, 8, 4 turns, 9, 10, 5 turns. In the cases of both groups that I moved off the board, I moved Scammon's division and Rodman's divisions off the board this way, and they came back on at one of these 3 spaces. In both cases, the first group, I think, was 2 turns, and the second was 3 turns. And I did this immediately, like within the first turn of the game. I think it took them 2 turns to get off the board. Well, maybe it was only 1 turn to get off the board, but I think it was the second turn that I decided, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and have them go downstream, cross the ford, and come up. Which is, historically, had Burnside done this, it would have wasted much less time. He spent most of the day just trying to get his guys across this single bridge. Had he just at the start just marched him down and crossed at the ford, which the Union knew was there, had he done that, he probably would have wreaked much more havoc on the Confederates before A.P. Hill arrived than what happened historically. And indeed, that's what I ended up doing. because the key victory hex is here, 4214, which is the control of the road that leads. What is it? Not the Potomac Road. Maybe it is the Potomac Road. The road to the Potomac Ford, which is this road here. If the Union can control this space, that means that they've essentially like cut off Lee's retreat to the Potomac Ford, allowing his army to get to safety before it can be destroyed by McClellan's Army of the Potomac. So the Confederates were not, or the Union was not ultimately able to control this hex, so the Confederates got an extra 15 victory points for it. But the casualty numbers were so badly skewed in favor of the Union that they ended up winning anyway, even though the Confederates still held on to that key victory hex. So essentially what that means is that the Confederates are able to extricate their army as they did historically, but that army is much more badly mauled than it was historically. So because the Union essentially wins on casualty numbers as opposed to victory point hexes. So I think in this case, using these fords now, it does come down to a die roll, so it could have taken the units that came across way more than 2 turns to get back onto the map through these spaces. Because they were able to do that so quickly, they were able to get up and establish a line that kind of, the Confederates kind of held on up here. What I should have probably done was displace the Confederates back to here. But maybe they would have taken fewer casualties that way. They did get punished by this artillery that was right across the river here, and really letting entire Confederate units get destroyed. And in this case, 3 entire brigades, essentially, of Confederate troops were destroyed. And that's bad. You really don't want that many casualties happening, because it's gonna obviously show in the final victory point tally. So in this case, it worked out pretty well for the Union. They got pretty lucky in getting across here and getting these large troops, because Scammon, you can see here, that's a huge brigade, and it's not green. I had here Harlan's brigade. It's big, but it's green, and so these guys can get ping-ponged around a lot on failed morale rolls. You can see they're routed now, although they only got routed on the final turn of the game. They actually survived at least 3 or 4 morale checks in a row, which was pretty good for them, because you're rolling, essentially get a 50-50 chance. You're rolling 0 through 5, they're going to succeed, and 6 through 10, they're going to rout. So I got pretty lucky on their morale checks, because they were an integral part of the line, because they were such a big unit. So it ended up working out pretty well for them. And for the Union in general, they were able to rout and destroy a lot of Confederate units. A number of the Confederate units ended up routing off the board, which the rules are retreat towards, when a unit retreats, it retreats towards a leader or towards or retreats towards a board edge or a reinforcement point, which you can see the gray arrow there means that's that the Confederates did there. That means that they have to retreat there, and if they towards that, and if they can't, which means presumably they're already at the edge of the board, they can't move the spaces that they're supposed to move, which would be 3 if they're routed or 2 if they're retreating, then they're eliminated. So I just, for ones that couldn't retreat because of the board edge, I just eliminated them. So I didn't see anything in the rules specifying differently that something that can't retreat just sits there. It says if you can't retreat, then you're eliminated. So that's what I did. So anyway, the just super simple, quick playing, but still fun. I didn't feel like it was needlessly sacrificing realism or plausibility for the sake of ease of use. It just feels like a very simple, classic, as it's described, old school war game system where you've got simple movement. simple combat, and even simple reinforcement rules and simple scorekeeping and that kind of thing. So I enjoyed it. I look forward. I've got the other game so far in the series, which is Shiloh. I look forward to getting that one to the table. I still have to punch that out. But I'm looking forward to trying that one and seeing if there were any refinements made to the system. Shiloh is a much different battle than Antietam, given that it's almost entirely wooded, and there's very little opportunity to use artillery except defensively in a line where you've got an enemy trying to overrun positions, so you've got artillery that's going to be firing adjacent in a lot of cases. Here you had artillery that you could actually use at range because there weren't a lot of obstructions on the map preventing artillery from firing. So I think it'll be interesting to give Shiloh a try. But anyway, overall, an enjoyable game of Antietam running the Burnside's bridge scenario. And again, as I've noted with the other Worthington games I've reviewed, the quality is great. It's got these good, thick pre-rounded counters that don't have, side nibs or something that you still need to trim off. Even after you've punched them out, they just punch out super clean. No little tufty bits to worry about. So, and then, nice mounted board. Although weirdly on the board, like the edge is cut off. So I'm not sure, even for the terrain key there. So I'm not sure if that was an issue with my board in particular. It looks like it actually might be, because look here. See how the offset hexes are right at the edge here, but the further you go up, you can see they're over. So I think I got and then the gap is pretty far up here. I think I got a misprinted board, not misprinted, but basically it came out crooked. Because again, look here, you can see the edges of these are coming off the edge. You follow it over and they start to pull away. So the grid is crooked on here, and so I'm not sure if that's why the edge of the name there was cut off up at the top. That's interesting. I never noticed that until now. Curious. But anyway, it's still a very nice board, lays nice and flat. It does have this chain of command, Union force tree here. The only drawback to it is, first of all, it's on pretty flimsy paper, and it's also double-sided, so it's not good for laying out your forces. Like, usually when these kind of things, these kind of force charts like this are kind of nice because you can lay out all the forces when you're sorting out your units prior to setup, but you can't do that with this because it's double-sided. So if you're setting up one side, you're not going to be able to do it for the other. So, series rules here. It's 8 pages of rules. So that's almost Columbia Block Games level of simplicity. And then the playbook itself with the different scenarios plus the full battle is also only 8 pages. And then you got a couple of CRTs. The other one's over there, and these are good, nice heavy cardstock. So. Good quality components again, and lovely box art, which Worthington has done well with on their games. So again, another good quality product from Worthington Games, and a fun game at that.